What does the Respect for Marriage Act do? The answer will vary by state. Today, the Respect for Marriage Act got one step closer to becoming one of very few federal laws expressly protecting LGBTQ Americans. It's expected to be signed into law by President Biden soon, but even when it is signed, the legality of same-sex marriage will still rest on the 2015 Supreme Court case of Obergefell v. Hodges, which found that same-sex marriage is constitutionally protected. If the court were to overturn Obergefell, the legality of same-sex marriage would revert to state law, and the majority of states would prohibit it. The majority of states are red, despite the majority of Americans being blue. This is because land has more voting power in America than actual people do. The Respect for Marriage Act wouldn't change that, but it requires all states to recognize same-sex marriages performed in other states and federally recognizes these marriages. The law unexpectedly gained Republican support and passed the Senate on November 29th after being amended to ensure that nonprofit religious groups aren't required to help perform same-sex marriages. It also repeals the Defense of Marriage Act, which prohibited the federal government from recognizing same-sex marriages and allowed states to refuse to recognize same-sex marriages performed elsewhere. The specific impact of the Respect for Marriage Act on same-sex couples and their families in a post-Obergefell world would vary based on state law. So let's take a little look at this map. Prohibited or likely prohibited, 32 states. So if you live anywhere in this fucking ocean and you're gay, good luck traveling to this area or one of these islands to get married so that your marriage that will probably end up getting you killed when you go back home, to your home state. Yeah, you'll at least be able to go out of state to get married, you know? Literally like how it was pre-Obergefell v. Hodges. I was 16 years old when gay marriage was legalized, by the way. Like, it's crazy that I might have seen gay marriage be federally legalized or constitutionally, protected in my teens, and then see that undone in my 20s. How wild would that be? Definitely wild, that's a word for it. Allowed or likely allowed. Okay, so these aren't even allowed. These are likely allowed. So there's a chance some of these states flip. On either end, to be fair. But yeah. Yeah, even Oregon's status likely prohibited for Oregon. That's actually not surprising. A lot of Oregon outside of more progressive city areas are they have a lot of power in terms of their districts to vote red on changes like this. Yeah, there's a lot of white supremacists. Literally, the Proud Boys are set there, right? What's that big town? Portland, Oregon is where all the Proud Boys are basically stationed, right? That's their main area. This bill basically just ensures the same status quo that came before Obergefell v. Hodges was passed. Before Obergefell v. Hodges, gay couples in Florida, for example, I know this because, well, I knew a married gay couple in Florida who had to go out of state 10 years prior to when they got, I knew them, to get married out of state because they lived in Florida. And their marriage was still valid in Florida as far as I know. They were lesbians and, they had to go out of state to get married. But the marriage was still recognized in Florida, so this literally just upholds the same status quo pre-Obergefell v. Hodges. So it's not that this is a bad bill. It's more so, this is definitely a good bill. We'd rather have this bill passed than not, especially with some of the extra perks that come along with it. However, it is not enough. It does not fully protect gay marriage by any means. Many states, if the Supreme Court made the decision to repeal Obergefell v. Hodges, sorry, spoilers, would not be able to get married if they lived in that massive sea of anti-gay states. Regardless, though, here's a nice little look, C-SPAN clip here of Republican politician Representative Vicky Hartzler. This is her take on, here, I'm actually going to turn off no, the Christmas music adds to it. Never mind. The Christmas music will add to the, like, how dramatic this is. This is how the Republicans are reacting to this bill, if you're curious.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you my priority. Protect religious liberty, protect people of faith, and protect Americans who believe in the true meaning of marriage. I hope and pray that my colleagues will find the courage to join me in opposing this misguided and this dangerous bill. I yield back.
Gentlewoman, time has expired.
Mr. Speaker.
This lady's literally live tweeting. You know for a fact this lady right here, actively live tweeting on her phone right now. Bro, there is this lady on stage literally crying about gay people getting married right now. Can you fucking believe it? For some reason, I'm surprised that cell phones are allowed in this room. Like, they take your cell phone away when you go into goddamn jury duty, even though it's boring and most of the time you're just sitting there while fucking lawyers talk to each other and you just sit there with your dick in your hand for like hours on end. You're not allowed to have your phone in there. And yet, these motherfuckers are just sitting on their phone texting and tweeting while voting on the future of our country. Now, that's some fucking bullshit if you ask me.
I'll tell you my priority. Protect religious liberty. Protect...
By the way, the example I'm pulling from is when I got jury duty, and it was for a fucking traffic infraction, okay? Like, I would get it if it was like a murder case or something, you know, but it was a traffic, it was a traffic infraction. It was like somebody T-boned somebody else, no injuries, they wanted damages. That's literally what it was.
Protect people of faith and protect Americans who believe in the true meaning of marriage. I hope and pray that my colleagues will find the courage to join me in opposing this misguided and this dangerous bill.
God, this is just gotta really enjoy the crying, you know, the actual crying at the concept of gay people getting married. So I think that clip in particular is actually really demonstrative of the conservative viewpoint, right? Or what they claim to be their viewpoint, right? Other people, minorities having rights, is an infraction on their rights. They believe they have a God-given right to live in a country in which the minority groups they don't like don't have rights. And if they don't get to live in that authoritarian country, then they're being oppressed. That's what it is at the end of the day. It's why there are so few, at least right now, so few, like, reasonable conservatives. You know? Because at this point, like, how can you be part of the GOP or, like, part of the Republican voter base and not be insane and complicit in all of this fashy shit, you know? Regardless, though, I really don't know what advice to give. I don't know if Obergefell v. Hodges is going to get overturned. If it does... Listen, a lot of lefty streams these days have been very doomer because of the state of politics. And, like, yeah, you buy guns, yeah. Let me present silver lining here. Because so many political commentators are willing to talk about the bad of what's going to happen or what may happen, and not the good side of it. If Obergefell v. Hodges gets overturned, the GOP will be single-handedly responsible for reverting the position of their platform as far as literally gay people's right to get married back to pre-Obama era. I want you to think about that. How were the Republicans doing when Obama was running? Not very well. Obama ran on a policy of legalizing gay marriage and bringing about change and, like, legitimately, like, trying... This is his platform, trying to revolutionize, progressive political change in America. And he actually did do quite quite a few cool things. Obama did some cool stuff. He also did a lot of bad stuff. However, I barely remember it, but I remember what it was like when Obama was running. Like, there has not been as much hype for a Democrat nominee in the main presidential election since Obama in my lifetime. There were these stickers that everybody had on their cars that was like a picture of Obama, and it was like blue and red, and it was like change, yes we can. Like, everybody was like repping their Obama merch on their cars, their bumper stickers, their everything. People were actually proud. Tons of people were actually proud to vote for Obama. A lot of Democrats did not feel like they were voting for the lesser of two evils there. They felt like they were actually voting for a pretty radical candidate. And the reason why the Democrats had that massive populist boost at the time, which was so huge, was because the Republicans were so objectively monstrous in that, like, America had gotten to the point where you couldn't be anti-gay marriage anymore as a politician and succeed. In a lot of places, right? You still could in some places, but not in, like, the media, Hollywood, like, the mainstream political sphere. You had to be some insane persons from some, backwoods county, right? That was generally where things were back then. And if the Republicans want to give up their hyper-populist, the left are the ones, the right has had to basically use the idea that the left have nothing to complain about insofar as gay people, trans people, all these marginalized groups being oppressed. Once they start literally just going through and taking away their right to get married and, like, repealing Supreme Court decisions, there's really not much they can do for plausible deniability anymore as far as their political demagogues go. And I don't think a lot of you are realize how much seeing something like that can change someone's mind if they're, like, bought into the conservative bullshit. I already am, like, expecting a pretty left-wing swing to internet culture to be coming in the not near, but, like, near-distant future. Much like I predicted this age of right-wing dominance to come about a year and a half ago. I expect us to swing back into a more left-wing dominant period soon, and I expect it to be even bigger than before, like with BreadTube. I expect it to be bigger than BreadTube. And yeah, it's gonna be pretty awesome, I bet. Regardless, though, the main point is that the right has relied for a long time on the idea that, like, how many times have you heard a conservative respond to trans rights with, what rights don't trans people have? You heard that a lot more back in, like, 2018, 2019, didn't ya? Back when it was, like, a little harder to directly point to areas through which trans people were being, like, systemically discriminated against. Like, you had to explain sociological phenomenon and stuff to make people understand. But now, you can just say, this bill, that bill, that bill, that bill, this bill, that bill, that bill, that bill, this bill, that bill, that bill, this bill, that bill, that bill, this bill, that bill, that bill. Like, you can literally go down the list of bills that literally even will say that trans people are, like, a threat to children and stuff like that. Like, it's at the point where we're legislating against trans people and gay people. So, yeah. Obviously, the right are liars and propagandists that can twist just about anything, but they always dig themselves their own hole. They did it back in 2017, and they're doing it to themselves again. Xander Hall, sometimes I feel the right always digs its own hole, and after every cycle, they lose more and more people. They do. They're less powerful every single time that they have this populist push. These are choking, gasping, dying breaths of fascism, desperately trying to gain relevance, okay? They are candles that can burn bright and bad, but not for long. I'm going to steal a quote from Demon Mama here. They can make it bad, but they can't make it last. That's why it's so important that you focus on surviving. Anyway, with all that said, please consider leaving a like. It really helps out the channel. It's completely free, and it forces YouTube, kind of twists YouTube's arm and forces them into pushing my content to new people. Of course, you can also follow my social media link down below in the description, as well as subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so YouTube tells you when I go live or I upload a new video. And of course, you can also support me financially if you've got the money for it and you don't need it for anything else by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or perhaps even financially supporting me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Streamelements, or Patreon. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and have a good one.